From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, an absolutely embarrassing performance at Notre Dame, but hope on the horizon. Changes. Coordinators out. What happens next? Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code Warchant. BOGO. Warchant. BOGO. Buy one, get one free. Buy one coordinator, get the second one for free. We can only hope in this world, but what we do know, Corey Clark, is if you go to warchant.com, you sign up for $1 a month, and you can find out about the coordinator stuff for only $1 again for 2 months. FSU on the promo code there. But over at vitaminenergy.com, use the promo code WordChampBOGO, and you buy one, you get one free. They obviously help make this show go every single day, as well as a Word Chant wrap. Struggling slightly, lots of travel, cold weather, multiple routes of travel, delays and such. Corey, we'll get to that maybe in another day. But how are you doing? You're going to power us through per usual. Hope you're ready to carry the show.
I hope you're doing okay, buddy. You said you're not feeling great. You're a little bit under the weather. What a long weekend for you
My
to go up
goodness.
to Chicago.
For that.
Get back. Yeah, go back, come back, go all the way up there for that. Come back, and now we're recording this right at midnight, which is almost maybe a record for the latest we've recorded one of these, or close to it anyway. So hope you're doing well, buddy. Let's fly through this. I know you don't talk a lot anyway on these shows because of me, but I'll try to carry the load again today.
Yeah, so in about 11 hours, we'll speak to Coach Mike Norvell as part of his Monday press conference. Usually we get coordinators, but as we said at the top of the show here.
There's none to get.
Yeah. Well, John Papucha's still around.
Old JP, I wonder if he'll speak after Norvell so we can ask him about those blocked punts.
Yeah, so I was traveling back from Chicago, and I think we arrived in Jacksonville, myself and my girlfriend, Abby. Shout out, Abby. And
she's still with you after that debacle.
Yeah, she hung on.
Did she go to the game?
No, it was a bummer.
Spare.
She's got a cousin who lives in Chicago, but the cousin at the last second decided to go down to Austin to visit her boyfriend down there to go to the Gator Texas game. Did not work out good for her. Poor choice, poor decision.
Yeah, all right.
But at 5:05 p.m., finally something pinged in the email box because I think I touched down around 4-ish, and I'm like, they still haven't fired anybody?
Right.
I was shocked by this, Corey, to be totally honest with you. 5:05 p.m., the email drops that Norvell has announced changes to his staff, dismisses OC, O-line coach Alex Atkins, defensive coordinator Adam Fuller, and receivers coach Ron Dugans. The statement says, I appreciate the work these three men have provided over the last 5 years with me at Florida State. They are all great men with families who all have poured into our program. We had many great moments together here, and I have never doubted their passion for our players and for Florida State. Unfortunately, we have not upheld the Florida State standard with our results on the field this season. I did not make any of these decisions lightly, but I feel changes needed to be made to elevate our program back to where we all desire it to be. I was stunned by the dismissal of Adam Fuller. I thought maybe Randy Shannon might be the guy that would take the fall for this one, and then Adam finishes out the string possibly. But I guess you wrote a column that what happened in South Bend, 52-3 against Notre Dame on Saturday night, kind of made a drastic level of change, this is drastic, right? When you get rid of both coordinators midseason.
Yeah, and look, man, I don't know what I think that would have been a bad look to when your defense gives up 52, when your defense gives up 45 points, the offense gave them 7. You fired the linebacker coach and not the guy that's in charge of the defense. Nobody could argue that Adam Fuller's defense played well this year. It was not helped at all by the offense. But if you're going to fire the OC, you got to fire the DC when you're bad in both. Obviously, the offense is the worst in the country. The defense isn't much better. It is better because how could it be worse than what the offense is? But to fire a linebackers coach, I think isn't maybe the right message to send.
Co-defensive coordinator, though. He's also co-defensive coordinator.
Well, that's a good point. But no, go ahead. And we know who we talked to on Mondays, or did talk to on Mondays, and that was Adam Fuller. And look, man, what the defense looked like kind of all season. Like they weren't as bad as the offense, obviously, but you look around the country and watch how other teams play defense, and then you watch this one, just Not a lot of life and passion in this bunch. And then to look the way they looked on Saturday night was just, I think we knew it was probably coming at the end of the year anyway. But when you're trying to show the world, most notably, I guess, or most importantly, your fan base, that you do take this abomination seriously. Getting rid of the coordinators is the best way. Look, he can't get rid of himself. I mean, I guess technically he could, but he's not going to. So showing that you're making drastic changes, go ahead and knock off both coordinators. Do it in one fell swoop. Rip off one Band-Aid. And then as we move forward the rest of the season, we don't think they're done at 3, but they got rid of I don't like the way I phrased that. They let go of 3 of the guys that were probably the most culpable. I mean, look, man, the defense has been not good. The offensive line have been a disaster, and the receivers are a joke. So go ahead. Those are the first 3, but there's probably more coming.
The statement does finish to say that with the 2 games remaining, so Randy Shannon is going to take over and assume defensive coordinator duties. Yeah. Additional responsibilities will be absorbed by current staff members. Yeah. So I would assume, I guess Gabe Vertita obviously takes over at offensive line, and you could have somebody maybe help out there as well. And yeah, for Dugans, that'll be interesting. Maybe Mike picks up a little bit more of that slack when it comes to working with the receivers, because I don't recall anybody really working hand in hand with Dugans with the receivers. So maybe Mike kind of elbows his way in there and sees what he has in the cupboard. Because, oddly enough, we talk about this core, which, I don't know, we felt maybe there was something there 3 weeks ago, but by gosh, not a lot to feel good about after a 3-point effort. But, you have LaWayne McCoy, Hakeem Williams, who was highly recruited, or highly rated, I should say. We like B.J. Gibson. If anybody actually brought in some talent here of late, it was a guy like Ron Dugans. But obviously, they have not performed at all, seemingly. I mean, and Saturday was one of those things, Corey, where the limited times where there was time in the pocket, nobody was getting open. And then most of the other time, it didn't matter if anybody got open because it was an absolute jailbreak for either Luke or Brock. So this all kind of makes sense. But I don't want to criticize any of this because we all said the changes need to be made. I think any reasonable person could agree to that. But to see like both coordinators get let go, that doesn't happen. It feels like at Alabama or at LSU or at Georgia, and then Florida State's kind of in that company. But I guess this just kind of underscores just how drastic things are and what Mike feels needs to be changed.
Yeah, man. I mean, 1-9 doesn't happen at Georgia, in Alabama, in LSU either. When you have a season that's this disastrous, changes like this are inevitable, but they're also needed. And not only has this been a disaster of a season, well, this last game was an absolute embarrassment, Aslan. Yeah. Like, you were there. Like, I imagine most Florida State fans are pretty damn tired of hearing the other fans doing mock war chants in the second quarter because the game is over. I mean, your offense is a literal joke. Like, it's a middle school offense. You scored 3 points. You've scored 13 touchdowns in 10 games. You were last in the country in scoring. At Florida State, man, you scored less a game than Kent State. Air Force, who was last in the nation in scoring, put up 36 against Fresno State, which is a real program, and won a game. You can't do that. Florida State couldn't dream of putting up 36 on a team like Fresno State. They might do it against Charleston Southern because Charleston Southern's 1-8 and just gave up 41 to UT Martin. But against a real program, this offense is so bad, this team is so bad, that you can't it takes drastic measures. And so that's why I think this happened, when you not only just going 1-9, like, look, man, if they had lost 26-10, maybe both those guys still had their job. Yeah. But when you go and lose 52-3, and your offense gives up 8 sacks, which is the second most in Notre Dame history, which, that's again, crazy. Folks, I wrote this, but if you know anything about the sport, you understand Notre Dame's played this sport for a while. They've cared about college football for a good long while now, and that's the second most sacks they've ever had in a game was on Saturday night. When that happens, and when your offense is a complete embarrassment again, that you when you and also when you have an off week coming up, there aren't usually off weeks this late in the season. Yeah, an off week and you have Charleston Southern. So if you're going to do it now. So that made sense, and I think more than anything, whether you think it's performative, whether you think he could have waited out till the end of the season or told these guys, look, man, you're gone at the end of the year, but ride it out. You need to show your fans that you care. You can't just come in front of us again on Monday, later on today, and say we're working hard. I still believe in these guys. It's an opportunity. You can't do that anymore.
The work works, Corey.
It's action time, right?
Yeah.
And this is an action. It's a drastic action. He fired two guys that I assume respects immensely and likes immensely. And as he pointed out, they accomplished those three guys, well, four when you count Dugans, those dudes all won 19 games together. It went from Jacksonville State to the podium in Charlotte in 2 years. Like they accomplished a great deal. That's something to be commended. But then when you go and do this the very next year, well, look, man, there's going to be serious repercussions. You can't fire Norvell just because you can't fire Norvell. If Nick Saban hadn't retired at Alabama, you probably could fire Norvell right now, and you might be getting ready to fire Norvell. But Nick Saban retired. They made a run at your coach, and now it's impossible to fire him. So the next thing on the list is to fire the coordinators, and neither one of them, for what they did this season, are deserving of keeping their jobs. And the real question, I think, Aslan, is the next offensive coordinator. Is it going to be a Kenny Dillingham type or another Alex Atkins type? Are you going to let somebody run this offense with you or just run the offense, period? Or are you giving someone a title? Because in my opinion, firing Alex Atkins opens up 2 spots on your coaching staff. You got to go get an offensive line coach, and you got to go get a real offensive coordinator. And I mean real as in he's going to coordinate the offense. So that's what I'm interested in hearing from Norvell later today or when we see the actual hire whenever it's made. Are you going to fill that spot with one guy or 2? Because I think you need to go get yourself a coordinator and let him bring in his own offensive line coach.
Yeah, certainly a coordinator, if they were to be hired in that title, would be able to bring in a receivers coach. They'd have a say-so an offensive line coach. But, Corey, I just go back, and I don't want to ruin any kind of good vibe people have about the changes that are forthcoming. But just the 2 times he's had to answer the questions about this offense being so poor, the last 2 or 3 weeks he's spoken, just him talking about, listen, I've done this before. I've been successful. It portends to me thinking – he realized, and listen, this offensive line is terrible. And I know I've been somewhat quasi defending the unit and Alex Atkins, and some of it might be kind of a personal thing. I like the dude, and I like Adam Fuller too. And I'm bummed out for those guys, but then you realize they're going to cash checks for the next 2 years, and they're going to be totally fine, more money than me and my family have ever seen. So I'm not going to play the violin too loud for them. But I think this offensive line has been so terrible. And I think I want to kind of talk about the Atkins versus Fuller and how much culpability each of these guys had, Corey, because, I don't know, man. Again, I don't think Norvell's going to give up the play sheet. And I don't know if I'm really that.
But you also probably wouldn't have thought he was going to fire both coordinators this season.
I mean, I could have seen
Everything's
Atkins,
on the table.
Fuller to me, I'm shocked. I'm shocked by that. I'm shocked. That's huge, man. Because your offense has been so terrible. What do you expect out of this defense? But again, I mean, maybe he was going to be gone at the end of the season anyway. So whatever. That's maybe another.
He was absolutely going to be gone. And as I point out, that's not an excuse. Like we've seen it. We've seen teams with bad offenses still compete defensively. Nobody can look at the talent that's on this defense. And you look, it's not the 2001 Ravens or whatever. Was that the 02 Ravens? Whatever the Ray Lewis
2001
team was. It's not that kind of talented, but they're NFL dudes on on that side of the ball, and there's a lot of high star recruits. Do you think they achieved what they should have achieved, or do you think they underachieved greatly? Like, the offense matters, sure, and they don't. But you don't just get an excuse because your offense sucks to just give in. Because, again, as I pointed out a lot the last few weeks, I watched Iowa for the last half decade have the worst offense in the country, and have the best defense in the country and manage to win 8 or 9 games. So those guys didn't give up. Why do your guys give up? Why do your guys give up 52 points and they give up 38 give up 5 touchdowns to the same kid from North Carolina the week before? Like
because you're recruiting kids that go on social media and leverage you for raises and maybe don't have their hearts
sure.
totally in the game.
But it all comes down to the guy running the side of the ball. So Adam Fuller didn't do enough to keep his job. The only reason Norvell is doing enough to keep his job is because Alabama came calling for Norvell, right? Like, or Norvell would be gone, but that didn't happen. So Norvell's here to stay. Not probably fair to Adam Fuller. He could certainly point to Mike's side of the ball and be like, golly, I'm better than you, man. But Adam, you're a lot cheaper, bud. That's the reality of life. Like, you're cheaper to get rid of than Mike Norvell. So Mike Norvell gets a second chance to make this thing work. Adam Fuller does not, and he'll go somewhere else.
So I think when you look at Alex Atkins in the 5 years that he was here, I think ultimately you're looking at a guy that really did not develop anybody grassroots.
Yep.
You know, they tried to have Jalen Early ready. Listen, Jalen Early's a third-year guy, and that's not young. It's not old either, though. I mean, he should have been ready to fill in somewhere at a more capable level. They try to kind of put Andre Otto on the fast track, and that did not work out at all. You end up having to start a guy like Jacob Rizzi, who's never played center in a collegiate football game.
And then played guard.
Yeah,
Saturday night.
Like he was your best option going into the North Carolina game because you didn't trust him to be out playing tackle against Lawrence Taylor and Carnate or whoever North Carolina had. Kamen Rucker. So
it was Lawrence Taylor and Julius Peppers.
Yeah, both coming at you the entire time.
Yeah.
So I think the Atkins thing to me makes sense because it's, all right, 2020, 21, not the greatest offensive lines. 2022, you figured out a power running game for, 6-7 games. That was pretty cool. But then, as we've talked about, 2023, the offensive line, outside of maybe that LSU game, never really bathed themselves in glory, to steal something from Jeff Cameron. 1 to 4 o'clock, by the way, everybody. I'm sure that's going to be a fantastic
No,
listen.
he's no Jeff Cameron.
Oh.
It's later on today. It's just you and I running the show, man. He's traveling back from Chicago.
Oh, that's right. All right. So you have that component, and then obviously the 2023 season not working out the way it is, but then for them to not even be a functioning offensive line. I think you could be bad, but function, but this offense it was completely dysfunctional because the offensive line could not do anything remotely redeeming. So I see that with Alex Atkins. Like what's on Adam Fuller's tombstone, or like what it was in his, when you get fired, I know about this, everybody. Like you actually have like a sit down and they write down on the thing like why they've let you go and whether or not they would rehire you down the road. Like what's the reasons on the sheet for Fuller? Like because they played soft, like they did not play hard and fast and physical the way he wanted them to. I'm not trying to defend him. I'm just curious about.
Yeah, I mean, I look, man. The standard is the standard. Florida State is. I'm looking now. They're 114th in the country in rush defense. You've got guys that will play in the NFL that are on your defensive line. You're 114th in the country. You're the third worst Power 4 rushing defense in the country. Is that acceptable at Florida State? And do you get to say, well, man, the offense sucks, so at least you're not as bad as them? I mean, that's not realistic. Like you did not do a good job. That defense lost games. Like they weren't the main reason for 1-9, but they didn't win any games either, except Cal. And Cal had over 400 yards of offense and missed some field goals. Like there's nothing redeeming about the defense either. And are you just going to keep them to keep them? Do you think? I guess. I would turn it around and ask you, after watching this season, is Adam Fuller the best Florida State can do?
I don't think so, but I just
right.
think that 2020. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say we know he's not. So 2023 happened. He had a very good defense. At the end of the year, it was probably the best in the country. But was that coach or player? Now, was that player driven or coach driven? Because those guys left. He got a lot of new dudes. And none of them worked out. And this defense has not gotten better. It's gotten worse. And I just think, you got coaches for a reason. You're not going to fire all the players. And if you can't get your players to play hard, if you can't bring in players that play with the standard play to the standard you want them to play to, you make changes. And the reality is that if you look at 2024 and what he did and the product he put on the field, Adam Fuller does not belong back here next year. If you look at 2023, absolutely he does. The difference is, and I hear myself saying it, folks, I understand there are probably people, I don't know if there's any Adam Fuller fans, but there's a lot of Mike Norvell detractors that would say the same thing about Mike Norvell. If you look at what he did in 2024, he doesn't belong back here either. Again, the only difference is you owe Adam Fuller $3.5 million. You owe Mike Norvell $63 million. That's why Mike Norvell is coming back. It's $60 million. That's not insignificant. That's the reason Norvell is coming back. And if money wasn't an issue, that none of them deserve to come back.
Well, I guess that's kind of what I wanted to follow up on when you talk about can Florida State do better than Adam Fuller. I mean, I think we can say they might be able to do better than Mike Norvell, but that's a cost prohibitive thing right now. But I just hope that's applied to everybody then. Again, this really sounds like I'm some sort of like Adam Fuller
what are
stand.
you? I know you love Adam. I mean, we all love Adam. I like Adam a lot. I just, I don't think anybody could have watched that product this year and be like, yep, he's safe. Like, the defense was bad too. Not as bad as the offense, but it was bad. And it was Florida State bad. Like, it was Florida State bad. Like, if Florida State had a good offense this year and the defense put up these numbers, the defense would be the reason they were 5-4 instead of 8-1. You know what I mean? Like, this defense would have still lost games. It wasn't good. It wasn't nearly as good as you thought it was going to be. You thought it had a chance to be dominant. It was not that. And it's not just the yardage and the points. It's, man, they could never get off the field. It's the fact that who other than like Edwin Joseph, who played better than you thought they were going to play? Who got better as the season went on? There's nothing.
Jabril Rawls?
I mean, he played 11 snaps against Notre Dame.
Because Fentrell was hurt. I mean,
yes, right. Like, there's nothing redeeming about the way the defense played. They don't instill you with a lot of pride with the way they attack the ball carrier. They swarm. And, again, you can say that's not the coach's fault. I don't disagree. But coaches get paid for a reason. And again, that's part of the job is getting your players to play hard and getting them to play smart. And the fact that, Aslan, you're last in the country in takeaways. Nobody has less than 5 except you. You have 3. You have 3 turnovers in 10 games.
I don't know, we're at practice, man. They do turnover circuit every day. I mean, they're drilling it, and a lot of the guys are sticking around here that were part of it. Again, it's an incomplete grade to give to this sort of, change in tack of what they're going to be doing because we don't know what's going to happen after the Florida game. I just think if we're going to use like the barometer, like is this guy up to the Florida State standard, then everybody on this staff probably should not be coming back then.
I would say the only ones that I would say are would have it. The only ones that I say what I think would be safe, like they may be asked back, is Surtain, and then Papuchis. Who else on this staff has their position group played even remotely well? Nobody.
I'm still not going to Odell. I know everybody keeps saying Odell might transition to something off field, but Odell still has an invite.
Fine, man, but who are his tackles coming up behind Jackson and Farmer?
Yeah,
Don't see a lot of talent there.
No,
Don't see a lot of future NFL stars there. So I'm on board with – you just can't do it all at once.
Right.
But I'm all on board with all of them going. I think what happened on Sunday was a statement to recruits and, more importantly, again, a statement to fans. I take this seriously. I am not – because if you come out on Sunday and fire a couple of position coaches, that ain't doing it. That's not the red meat in the water. What do you feed sharks? Chum. That's not the chum that anybody needs. You need some real chum to get the sharks out, and that's coordinators. And when you just lost 52-3, which would have been tied for the worst loss in school history if not for the Orange Bowl, which was less than a year ago, by the way, this is the worst loss in school history. Other than that, there needs to be major changes immediately with an off week coming. So I'm okay. I wouldn't say I was stunned or even a little bit surprised. I was more, pleasantly surprised that he did Fuller. And I like Adam. I've talked about him a lot. I've always enjoyed our conversations. And he is not his unit is not the reason they're 1-9, not the biggest reason. So I get where Aslan's coming from a bit.
Well, they are the reason they're 1-9. They'd be 0-10 without
correct.
that defense.
Yes,
playing
you're
well.
right. You're right. Yeah, that's a good point. So, but they're not. They are part of the problem clearly, but they weren't the biggest problem this year. And I've always enjoyed talking to Adam, and I'll always respect what he did in 23 with that group and how well they played. But, yeah, man, I was like, okay, Norvell got the message one way or the other. I'm hoping it was just him on his own. Or maybe he was told, you have to do this. But that coordinator stuff, man, that resonates.
Oh, yeah.
When you fire both coordinators, it shows that you're not just going to sit here and take it, man. You're not going to just sit here and be an embarrassment and get pummeled on national TV again, have everybody in the country laugh at you, which they've essentially been doing for 11 months, has been laughing at your program. Florida State fans feel like a laughingstock because they're 1-10 in their last 11 games, and 2 of those losses have been by 60 points and now 49 points. And you're gonna sit there and just let these guys wear it out, ride it out for the rest of the year? No. Show people you mean business. Whether you can fix it or not, and that's certainly the jury is out on that, show people you mean business and you're not taking this anymore. You're not going to just sit there and tell us you believe in everything and you believe in how hard they're working. Make some real changes. Take some real action. You get paid $10 million a year to take some real action and have some hard conversations. And I'm sure those weren't easy conversations because you know you're more at fault than anybody else that was fired. You're more at fault. But you're not being fired. So you need to take some action and show this fan base you mean business because this is a proud fan base, man. There were people in South Bend wearing Florida State gear.
So many, dude. So many. I saw them around Chicago. Yeah.
Right, and they're sitting there having to wear this. They spent all that money to go watch themselves get humiliated. Like literally not even competitive. Childs High School would have been as competitive in the second half as Florida State football. Timberwolves rise up. I think they just won a state volleyball championship. So they do some stuff over there. But like this is an embarrassment. It is an embarrassment. And we can't sit here and just, not you and I, just people in general, and normalize it. Because this isn't normal. It's normal to have down years. It's normal for what Michigan's going through. But Michigan competed against Indiana, man. That great Hoosier team. Like, they were in the game in the fourth quarter. They had a chance to go win the game in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, you're getting your ass kicked by Riley Leonard. Not even think he played well.
He did not.
And you got beat by 49 effing points, man. So, yeah, don't just come back and keep that same staff or just make 1 or 2 higher. Show everybody it's all getting blown up. It starts with the coordinators, and as we move on, probably right after the Florida game, you get rid of 2 or 3 more other coaches.
Minimum,
and you move on. But let people know you're sick of it and you're done with it. And you can't fire yourself, but you let them know you don't. This isn't anything you're okay with, and you're going to let people know immediately as soon as you get back to Tallahassee that we're done with this and we're making changes. We're moving on. We'll see if it works, but I don't. When you look at it, it's like, man, I don't know that you have a choice. 1-9 is 1-9. You lose 28-13. Okay, maybe they keep their job, but 52-3. Okay, man, both sides of the ball quit. Nobody wanted to be there. They knew their coaches' jobs were on the line. Let me ask you this, Aslan. Did those players act like they wanted Adam Fuller to be their defensive coordinator next week?
I mean, Edwin Joseph showed some fight, but I think
anybody else, right?
Yeah.
And then did those offensive linemen look like they wanted to continue to be coached by Alex Atkins?
Yeah.
Did they play like that? Nope.
What is it? But do they want to play for Mike Norvell?
Don't know, but you can't fire Mike Norvell.
Fire Mike Norvell. I know.
So I know that I saw a big fat white defensive tackle for Notre Dame counting the sacks on his fingers. Like he
why's got to be a fat white guy, man? Why should say defensive lineman from Notre Dame?
Because he was not black. Well, you're right. It's a good point, Aslan. I don't know why I said that.
We're having fun, everybody. Relax.
How about the big fat defensive tackle from Notre Dame?
There we go.
Was counting off his sacks on his fingers, just clowning your whole program. So go ahead, man. Notre Dame, enjoy it. You'll probably get bounced in the first or second round because you got Riley Leonard as your quarterback. But enjoy the playoff. That's great. Good win. It'll come back around. Let's hope this guy makes the right hires in the next month so that it comes back around with him as the head coach.
So in 2020, Fuller's defense 107 in total, 105 in scoring. In 21, 66th in total, 68th in scoring. 2022, 14th in total, 20th in scoring.
Yeah.
And then in
But remember those last two games.
Yeah, Oklahoma and Florida. Yeah, they were not great.
Not great. And remember, look, man, I'm not trying to justify this. I'm not trying to rationalize this firing, although 2024 is plenty proof. They played a lot of backup quarterbacks. They had a string of, like, Georgia Tech was on their backup quarterback, Miami, Syracuse. So it made the defense look a little better than it was. But sorry, go ahead anyway.
No, I mean, and then 23, they were 28th and 18th. I don't know how many elite offenses really they have seen up until this, and they haven't seen a lot of elite offenses this year. But Miami was probably the best one, and they actually kind of limited Miami to a certain degree. By the way, sorry about to the Canes.
Tough loss, tough
man.
L.
At least you won't have to worry about getting snubbed by this playoff committee.
Yeah, they'll still go to the playoff probably.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, no, SMU. I feel good about the Ponies.
What do you think? I was just talking about this on Sunday night. What do you think the crowd is going to be for the Miami SMU ACC championship game in Charlotte? Over under 24,000.
I was about to say, I think there's going to be more people at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill next Friday for the meet and greet with Jeff Cameron and Corey Clark going down at 5 o'clock. That happens every Friday before a Florida State home game over at the CP 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for only $8.99. Trivia going down Tuesdays. Bingo on Thursdays. You can win cash money, everybody. Happy hours 4 to 7 p.m. weekdays, and then all day Sunday.
And Sunday is all NFL Direct TV. I was there on Sunday. The 4 o'clock window was atrocious, but the 1 o'clock window had like 5 games come down to the final minute. And that place was going nuts for like 20 minutes straight. So if you want to feel the juice of an NFL Sunday, that 1 o'clock window, come to Corner Pocket, man. There's a lot of people there, but it's not wall to wall. Like, you can still move around. Great food, and you get to watch every game you want.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, the website 2475 Appalachia Parkway. It's Wake Up Warchant. It's presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, promo code Warchant, BOGO, buy one, get one free. Speaking about NFL Sunday, shout out to our guy Ryan in Jacksonville. Met him in Dublin, Corey.
Okay.
And also bumped into him in South Bend. I see him, I think, I saw him in Chicago on the plane ride back to Jacksonville. He had the Bucks-Niners game on his telephone 2 rows in front of me, and unbeknownst to him, I kept looking at it. So I was able to stay involved in NFL Sunday in the big bird plane.
Oh, nice.
The jet plane there. So shout out to our guy Ryan. Shout out to our guy Justin. Actually, it was cool, man. And shout out to the 2 Ralphs in Jacksonville as well. So this is the first trip with the girlfriend. And like, I got spotted everywhere. Got spotted in like downtown Chicago. Got spotted at the airport on the way down, on the way up as well. So thanks to those gentlemen.
Oh, that makes you feel like a big guy, right? Yeah. Like when they're like, "Oh, what's up, Aslan?" I bet Abby was impressed.
Yeah, dude, our guy Justin's like, he just comes to me, "Hey man, like I gotta take a photo with you. I love you and Corey." I'm just like, doesn't even say like my name's Justin or Aslan, nice to meet you. Just like, I gotta take a photo with you. And she's like, does this happen all the time? I'm like, no.
Yes, it does. Don't be humble.
But, shout out to those guys. Also, Aunt Deb bumped into her and her posse at the Cummins tailgate and on the plane ride back down. So, Noles everywhere.
Did you see Ralph from Hawaii?
No. So, there's a Ralph that's a medical physician that lives in Jacksonville, friends with Irish O'Fell, the great Irish O'Fell. And there's another Ralph that I met in Jacksonville while we were at the Chili's at the airport because our flight got delayed 5 hours.
Nice.
And we were discussing alternative plans. So then I bumped into him at the Cummins tailgate, which, by the way, shout out to our great friends over at Cummins and everybody that came out to that tailgate. No, it wasn't a great game, but shout out to everybody, Nole Nation showing up. Cummins people are like, wow, Florida State fans travel thick.
Even for 1-8.
Yeah.
Now 1-9.
Yeah, so that was the highlight of an otherwise crummy sort of day, I guess, if you will.
So, but speaking of the other Ralph, have you heard the clip?
Mike, I've seen it, but I haven't listened to it yet. So he called from the game. He was in the stands.
He's in the stands. When you hear it, it's kind of quiet, so I assume he was in the Florida State section and most people had left. But he's talking about how it's unbelievable, Aslan. It's unbelievable. Our guy Ralph, he's talking about how he's through with watching this. And as he's talking, he goes, up, interception. They're running it back. They're running it back. I'm so done. I'm so done. Like he's saying this as it happens, and Tom and Gene are watching the game, but obviously Ralph is like 8 or 10 seconds ahead. And so they haven't even seen the pick yet. So he tells them the pick six is coming before they even see it.
Oh, no.
But Ralph chimed in on the live show that we did on Sunday night and said he's back on board. The firings gave him hope, and I think that's why it was important. Like I got texted from 5 or 6 or 7, probably 7, and then talked to other people, Florida State fans, that said they were very encouraged by those firings. Whether they end up meaning anything at all, it means something to the fans. And sometimes you do have to take care of your fans. Also, it's the right thing to do. Like you mentioned the Adam Fuller numbers and how they were pretty good. They were good last year, and they were good the year before. Well, this year he's 99th in total defense and 101st in scoring defense. Those aren't good enough at Florida State, especially when you have NFL talent. So, it's fine. He's going to make – Nobody listening to this is going to feel sorry for Adam Fuller. I'm going to miss our conversations because I did like talking to the guy. But, again, he's going to get $3 million from Florida State University to not coach the next 2 years. So, good on you, Adam. And we all appreciate the 2013 season. We all appreciate that Louisville game and the game in Charlotte and the game in Florida in particular. Your defense is the reason Florida State should have been in the playoff. But it's 2024. Things change. Your defense sucks. This team is awful. And, you move on. You make changes. It's the nature of the business. He knew that when he started it. It's pretty awesome that he got to coach at Florida State for 5 years. I would think. I hope he feels that way.
Is there a way to ask Norvell later today about when he knew this was going to happen? Because I think, again, to 2 weeks ago, I think like coming out of or maybe it was only a week ago. 2 weeks ago, coming out of the Miami game. Like I mentioned on the show how Atkins seemed to have like a different kind of, disposition when we spoke to him on Monday. I wonder if he was kind of told this, I know there's any way, and I don't even know if anybody really cares that's listening to this podcast right now, but just a way to ask Norvell about, if he had an idea that these guys were not going to be retained, or was that something that kind of, he didn't talk to them about until Sunday when he made a decision. I'm curious.
You could ask him. I don't know how honest or I shouldn't say honest, how forthright he'll be about something like that. I would assume he knew weeks ago.
Yeah.
Look, you can't go 2-10 at Florida State and not make wholesale changes, and especially when it's not like you have the 33rd ranked defense. You have the 100th ranked defense. So when you have the 100th ranked defense, that's plenty of room to make those kind of changes. And obviously his offense, they all need to be gone, in my opinion. Like I wouldn't, you tell me the quarterbacks are being coached well.
No. But that'll be interesting because he's got 3 friends on that side of the ball.
Great, man. We all got friends in life.
Yeah.
You want to keep this job? You want to win games, or you want to hang out with your friends? Like these quarterbacks are atrocious. And I'm talking about all 3 that have played for you. Have been atrocious. Brock Glenn has the worst quarterback rating of any quarterback in the country, Aslan, of somebody that's thrown more than 50 passes.
He was 1.8. His rating was at 1.8 at one point on
it probably went up with the pick 6 because at least somebody found the end zone. And so he's been atrocious. Luke Kromenhoek can't look downfield without curdling and taking a sack. And then we all saw what DJU was when he was here. These quarterbacks aren't being coached at all. And I know we gave Tony Tokars a lot of credit for Jordan Travis. Well, maybe we should just give all the credit to Jordan Travis. Maybe that's the answer. Yeah. Dillingham for noticing that he could play the position and believing in him, and then Jordan Travis for believing in himself. Because look at this, man. Look at the product. Look, like Kromenhoek just doesn't look like he just can't function. And that doesn't mean he won't be able to. Theoretically, he should be getting coached better next year. And he should have better players around him and maybe guys in front of him that can block. But not all those sacks are on the offensive line. And as I pointed out to you and Ira, and they pointed out on the broadcast, the second sack he takes, Malik Benson's got a 60-yard touchdown. Don't know if he'd have caught it, everyone. Can't say for sure he would have caught it. But that cornerback is flat-footed. That safety is on the other side of the field. Malik Benson, who can run, runs right by that dude, and that is a wide-open 60-yard touchdown for the taking. Luke Kromenhoek instead curls up into the fetal position. I don't know why I keep saying curls. That's what milk does.
Yeah.
Curls up into the fetal position and takes a sack when he's got a guy running free. I'm not blaming the freshman that's 18 years old that's played quarterback for 3 years. I'm blaming the people that coach him. And I just don't know how you can look at the offense, which is this bad everywhere, and it is bad everywhere. Maybe Chris Thompson because they got a couple of good tight ends, but then look at what Morlock did for the first half of the season. By the way, my man Morlock is catching everything now, gang.
Yeah.
He's catching everything, and I don't think that one on third down, or maybe it was fourth down, I don't remember, was his fault. It looked like Norvell might have been mad at Landon Thomas. I couldn't tell because they were both in the same spot. But Morlock's catching it all now, gang. But, yeah, you can't look at how Morlock played through the first 4 or 5 games of this season and say that, okay, Thompson deserves to be back either. And, again, I'm not advocating for anybody's firing, but you can't look at that group and say that anybody absolutely deserves to be back because the whole thing is awful. So, anyway, yes, there'll be other firings coming. And I don't even know where I was going with that.
Well, let me ask you 2 quick things as we kind of try to wrap this up a little bit earlier than usual. In terms of the run time, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning right now. You know, Ira pointed this out a few weeks ago, but by now we know for sure, obviously, he's replacing both coordinators.
Yeah.
So, this is it, right? This is the only fix. This is the only reboot Norvell's going to have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and Jeff said on the live show, and I think he's right. I think what this does is it buys Norvell 2 years because you can't get anybody worth anything that's a Florida State caliber coordinator or what you deem that to be and tell them, oh, yeah, you might be looking for another job in a year. So you have to give them some real assurances that if I go and say you're the linebackers coach at Alabama or Georgia or somewhere, or the DC at Georgia, make a run at them. I don't know,
man. Georgia's falling off.
I was going to say they didn't look great against Ole Miss. I'll be honest with you, but you can't tell that guy, yes, come here. Was Norvell going to be there in a year? Maybe. You to get what you want on both sides of the ball. These assistants that you should be throwing big money at them to get for the assurances that they need. You're going to have to pretty much guarantee that they'll be here at least a couple of years. And if they're here a couple of years, then Norvell is here a couple of years. So because you're right, man, it's too much money to fail. It's too important to fail. You have to go get some guy. And again, I'm going to reiterate this again for the probably the 5,000th time. I really do like Adam Fuller, and I do appreciate what he did at Florida State. I do appreciate 2022 and 2023. Those were good years, good times. It was fun. That whole ride was fun. But he was the defensive coordinator at Memphis, and they weren't very good when he was at Memphis. Alex Atkins was the offensive line coach at Charlotte, and then he was your OC. He became your OC. You can't fish from those ponds anymore. You can't go get an offensive line coach from Tulsa and the defensive coordinator from UTEP. And you just can't do it. This is too important. There's no guarantees. There's no certainties when you make coordinator hires. But you can make damn sure you get the best people available. And that's what has to happen here. You're going to have to spend some serious money to get guys that can do this. And obviously some of that means is Norvell going to give up play calling, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that probably on tomorrow's show after we ask him about it. Not even play calling. Like, is he going to give up the offense? Is he going to let somebody else bring in a new offense? But you've got to get these hires right, man. These are important hires, not just for Mike Norvell's tenure. Who cares, man? That guy's from Texas, and he'll be at a job somewhere else. I'm talking about the people listening to this show, for you and I. We all need and want Florida State football to be relevant for the rest of our lives. So it's drastically important for Florida State football, as you're trying to go into a different conference, to be good at some point in the next couple of years. It's paramount that you make this program good here very, very quickly. And so you can't shortchange this hire. You can't be cheap with this hire. You're paying $8.5 million just for those 3 coaches to not be here anymore. You're probably going to have to double that to make sure you get 2 good coordinators.
Oh my gosh!
But it's better than paying $65 million for a new coach, because it's more than that. You pay $65 million and you're also firing all his coaches. So you're talking literally in the neighborhood of $85 million to bring in a whole new staff. $85 million is just to fire this staff.
Yeah,
and then bring in another $40 million to bring in a new staff.
Yeah, to surround the guy that told you needed to give him all this money to keep these guys.
Right. Look, it is what it is, but Clemson did it with Dabo. They believed in that dude somehow, some way. They liked what he did as a head coach, or they liked his potential as a head coach, but they knew he needed a Brent Venables and a Chad Morris. They went and spent top dollar. Now, top dollar in 2010 was a wee bit different than top dollar in 2025. But they went and spent – they made both of those guys $1 million coordinators when that was unheard of, because they believed in Dabo as the CEO, but they knew he needed help. Well, Florida State's in that position. Not because you think Norvell is like I don't know. I'm not going to insult Dabo because he's got a really good program. But he needs that kind of help. He needs that kind of assuredness that, if that's a word, that you're going to have a really good coaching staff. Because look, man, again, Adam Fuller accomplished some nice things at Florida State, some really good things. Alex Atkins had a nice turnaround on the offensive line. One dude was from Charlotte, the other dude was from Memphis. Before that, he was at Marshall. And they weren't 29. They weren't young up-and-comers. So you've got to go say, okay, I'm going to go get somebody that's either established or that is a shooting, not just a rising star in this profession, a shooting star in this profession. And I've got some possibilities on defense, Aslan. I've looked up some names.
Okay.
But I don't know if we wanted to get into that. But I think that's imperative, that they go and get this guy. And it might not work, man. It might not work. Maybe Norvell just can't sustain a program at this level. I don't know. But I know you've got to do everything you can in the next 2 years to make sure this program isn't an embarrassment. You can't have another season like this. You really can't have another losing season, in my opinion. But if you do, it better be 6-7 and not 2-10. Ugh. And you've got to figure this out, because you are trying to join the Big Ten or the SEC. You've got to look alluring to them. You also are trying to. You're building you're fixing your stadium. You're building all this stuff. You need money into the program. You 2-10 ain't cutting it, man, as we all know. But a couple of good coordinator hires, and all of a sudden you do turn into Dabo, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Dabo was a laughingstock in 10. People couldn't believe that they kept him.
Clemsoning was a verb, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you bring in Venables. You already had Chad Morris. And then what do you know? They're the second best program in the country for a decade. Coordinator hires really matter. And maybe Mike Norvell can give it up and become a CEO. I hope he can, because I think that's in his best interest. But you got to go get him some big-time coaches. And you know what else, Aslan, would help? Big-time players.
That would.
Yep.
Do you have I don't know if you want to drop names, but like, is there a profile you're looking for? I know I said earlier in the season that I don't want to go the NFL route, which I didn't want to go like the Mike Zimmer, Dion, Pat Shurmur route, although shout out Prime, 7-2.
Shout out Pat Shurmur.
Yeah, that offense. Well, then we'll see how good he looks without having one of the best quarterbacks in college football operating his offense and one of the best. Did Travis Hunter play on Saturday? I didn't even look at anything up.
Yep, had I think 7 for 95, including a touchdown, and then had an interception too, but it was called back because one of his teammates was offsides. But he played the whole game, and is still number one in Corey Clark's Heisman vote.
I like the Liam Cohen profile. He's the OC for the Bucs right now, but he was like an assistant receivers coach for the Rams under Sean McVay, which that's probably super. I mean, that's just maybe a rung above being a quality control analyst at the NFL level. You're an assistant wide receivers coach. I wanted, I looked up some profiles to see if there's any connections with anybody on the Niners roster, because the Niners actually have 2 assistant offensive line coaches, but I didn't see anything that had a direct connection to Norvell. But I wouldn't mind that profile if they're not going to be able to get that shooting. I would like to get the shooting star that you mentioned earlier in your explanation. That's probably my 1A. My 1B would be, let me get a guy that's at a really good, successful NFL program. He's a very young dude, but he's been around 2-3 years, a really successful program. Because the Niners offense, or whatever you want, my brother, God love my brother, wanted to like fire Kyle Shanahan in the first half of the Bucs-Niners game, and they ended up winning the game anyways. Yeah. But like, I love the Kyle Shanahan offense. Like somebody that's been around that kind of stuff, that would be my kind of, pie in the sky perhaps profile. What do you look for and hope for that they'll get?
It's funny you said Pat Shurmur. You brought him up because I talked about this on the live show with Tom and Gene. But like I was watching some of that Colorado game, and I think it's Joel Klatt. I think he does those Big 12 games, and he's really good. He was talking about the difference between college coordinators and guys that have NFL experience because he was talking about Pat Shurmur. And he's like, the NFL coordinators, the guys that have been in the NFL, they're not just calling plays. They're not calling the best play available. Their sole focus is getting the ball to their best player. That's what they do better than anyone. It's why
offense for playmakers.
It's why, but it's why Jordan Jefferson has 110 catches in a season. It's why Jamar Chase has 110 catches or has 250 yards in a game, because their coordinators they don't care about the play. They got to get their best player the ball. And Pat Shurmur is very good at that. If you watch those Colorado games now, but you're right. I think he's probably got 4 NFL wide receivers that he gets to throw to, and maybe the top quarterback in the draft. So that helps. That makes him look better than he might be. But, man, that would be nice. The problem with Florida State right now, as I pointed out in the live show, I don't know who their best player is. Ja'Kai? Which is a problem. Ja'Kai, I love you. But if Ja'Kai Douglas is your best playmaker, you don't really have an offense built for playmakers. But that's the difference between an NFL guy and a college guy in Joel Klatt's mind. I'm not saying that's necessarily true. There have been a lot of great college coordinators over the year, but I just caught my ear that like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, you wonder how CeeDee Lamb catches 130 balls in a season. Aren't defensive coordinators trying to stop him? But it's like, yeah, they run plays specifically for him. They don't design plays. They have a set number of plays where they have to get their best player the ball.
The Randy rules back in the day, like Randy Moss, right?
Right. You're going to throw it twice. You're going to throw it deep twice a quarter. You just have to. Florida State doesn't throw it deep ever. Ever, ever, ever. Which, again, their Hail Mary offense would have been better than the slop we've seen.
Really disappointed you shared that on Headlines and now with people on your own show here. That's, but whatever.
Headlines is my own show. We you know what I mean? The Headlines been around longer, Aslan. You know what I mean? I feel like they're the first. They're the first Corey Clark fans. But you're right. I should have shared it here first. But yeah, the Hail Mary offense literally is just
you workshop it on Headlines, then you hone it,
right,
and then you bring it to everybody here on
Why not just throw a Hail Mary on every play, guys? Would it be better than what we've seen? Would it be better? Just tell Luke Kromenhoek to roll right and just throw it up for grabs. Something good might happen. Might tip it to a guy for a touchdown. Might get a DPI. Might get maybe get intercepted. But at least it's 50 yards downfield and not 6. But anyway, so it'll be interesting. I think the guy I thought of a lot when it came to DC defensive coordinator was the guy at Georgia Tech,
Tyler Santucci.
Yeah, they weren't good at all last year.
Right.
I saw what they just did to Miami. I saw what they did to Florida State. They're 6-3 this year. Their quarterback has missed half the season, but their defense has been good enough to keep them in it. Their defense is a good defense. It's well schemed up. They play hard as hell, and you have some experience with them in the sense that you played against them.
I think Norvell's got a lot of respect for him. The way he talked about him.
Yeah, the way he talked about him before the season, I thought he had a lot of respect for him. So that's somebody that it's like, man, you could certainly outbid Georgia Tech for a defensive coordinator. I also looked up the guy at Northern Illinois. He's young. He's only been there since 2022, but that defense gets better and better. But again, it's Northern Illinois, and it's like that would be awesome if he was a great DC. And clearly, his defense looked a lot better at Notre Dame Stadium than yours did, with less players, with worse players. But can he recruit at this level? Is this a two-hit wonder? Is this a 2-year wonder? Like, there's all these questions when it comes to all these coordinators. But there's a lot of – the point is, I would think the DC at Northern Illinois would run to Tallahassee for the chance to coach at Florida State. I would think the same thing about the DC at Georgia Tech. I would also think the same thing about the OC at UNLV or an OC at Tulane or SMU or one of those. Or you're right, go to the pro ranks. But either way, you're going to have a lot of qualified candidates. As long as they know the head coach isn't in danger of getting fired in 11 months. And with that kind of buyout and the fact that you're probably going to have to pay $20 million to the players in revenue, I think that buyout might make Florida State really attractive, right? They can't fire him. If he was going to be fired, this is the time to do it. He's almost like Teflon. Because of that contract, I would think coordinators understand, okay, I'm going to go to Tallahassee, and I'm at least there for a few years because they can't afford to fire the guy. They didn't fire him, and he just lost 52-3 for their 9th loss of the season. This is the worst season in Florida State in 50 years, and they're not even thinking about firing. That's some pretty good job security. So maybe in a weird way that becomes appealing to coordinators. It's not Napier, right? Like, right. Florida, good luck, man. Go get some coordinators. You're talking about real thin ice that guy's on, and he's got LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State coming up with maybe a starting quarterback, maybe not. We'll see. That, by the way, that team absolutely quit on him on Saturday. They didn't show that they appreciated that message from the AD by getting down 42-0. You know what I mean? Yeah. They didn't show that was good belief there. But you know what? They knew they also didn't have. They knew they had an offense that couldn't do anything. Yeah. It's hard to play defense when you know your offense can't score. It's hard to care when you know your offense can't score, and that's what Adam Fuller's unit basically had to do all season long. But yeah, that was so. Anyway, it'll be fun. It really will be fun to kind of track and figure out who they're honing in on over these next 2 or 3 weeks at those two positions, because you know, man, you've got a chance to get some really good candidates. Really good candidates. As bad as this season has been, I think what Florida State did last year makes this a really appealing place. I think that they know that Norvell can win. Again, I think they know that he can't be fired. He literally can't be fired. So that gives security to those coordinators, knowing that they'll probably get a 2 or 3 year deal. They can probably ask for a 3-year deal. 3 years, $9 million. And yeah, I'll come and be your coordinator. If they know that they have a job secure for 3 years, that broadens the horizons. That makes a lot more options available. And he just can't screw it up. Just can't screw it up. He needs some help. And hopefully he can go find somebody that can give him some help.
All right, that's a wrap for us. We'll be back. Another show tomorrow.
Hey, by the way,
press conference 11:30. By the way,
yeah. Shout out to the men's basketball team.
Yeah,
2-0. Jameer Watkins out here scoring 30.
Let's do that. I love it. Ham, just like Jameer, do what you want to do, man. Green light, just go.
Absolutely. Did you see his box score? You probably didn't.
No, I did not.
He made 7 baskets. He was 14 of 22 from the free throw line. Which
James Harden-esque.
Yeah, he's better than that. He's an 80% free throw shooter. He needs to make his free throws more than that. But 22 free throws is crazy. But my man scored 30. That's something the Florida State football team hasn't done all year.
Correct.
And also, not to be outdone at all by the men's basketball team beating a bad Rice team. But it's still 2-0. We love it. The women's soccer team. Our friend of the program, Brian Pinsky, man. Shout out to that team. Right. Shout out to that coaching staff. To go to probably, it's funny, I was actually writing this column because I didn't have anything else to write about. I wasn't going to write about that football team again. I was writing about the soccer team when all the news broke. But, like, for that team, that was arguably the best college soccer team of all time last year. Literally, when you look at the numbers, they were undefeated, the way they steamrolled everyone. That was one of, if not the best college soccer teams of all time. Well, then they come back this year. Half the team is gone for the World Cup for a month. They have some bad losses. They have some tricky losses. I mean, they've only have 2 losses, but there were some tricky times, some ties, a couple back-to-back losses. To then rally like they've rallied, to beat number 12 Notre Dame, number 4 Wake Forest, and number 2 North Carolina, back-to-back to win the 5th straight ACC championship. It's a testament to the power of that program, man. Like, you want to talk about a standard. Let's hope Florida State football can somehow reach the standard that is Florida State soccer. Like, man, I want people to understand. I know you don't. You probably don't care about soccer. You should, because they're awesome. But 5 of the top 10 teams in the country. No, I'm sorry, 7 of the top 12 teams in the country. 7 of the top 12 are in the ACC. It is the most loaded conference, maybe in any sport in the country. And it has been forever. And your team just won its 5th straight ACC championship. It's unbelievable, Aslan. That doesn't happen. Soccer isn't like that. That'd be like winning 5 straight World Series in baseball. The parity is too much. All these other teams are really good too, but you've built a program and sustained a program with Penske coming in after Krikorian. They expect to win these games. They get down 2-1 in the second half on the road because every ACC championship is played in the state of North Carolina. And then they score a goal to tie it up on a PK. And then Jordan Dudley makes an incredible pass, and our girl, Hudson, I think is her last name, from New York, finishes, and they beat North Carolina essentially on their home field to win a 5th straight ACC championship and probably secure a top 4 seed for the tournament, which means as long as they keep winning, they will be at home all throughout the NCAA tournament till the Final Four. So that's a lot about soccer, but shout out to that, man. I hope people appreciate that standard of success in sustaining it, because it is not easy, as we've seen from this football team. But yet this soccer team continues to be the best program in the country.
I think it's Rihanna Hudson, by the way. Rihanna Hudson. But yes, to everything Corey said. We're done.
Thank you, buddy.
Have a great one, everybody. We'll catch up with you later. Again, 11:30 press conference with Mike Norvell. We'll have the replay up on the Warchant TV YouTube page, as well as warchant.com. Thumbs up, 5-star rating interview out the door. He's Corey Masnell. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.